The rioting around the UK may have stopped, but that is not the end of the legal process for all of those involved. And I predict that we're going to see some very much more serious sentences handed down. So for the rest of this video, and if you would like a fresh alternative to mainstream media from a practicing barrister, please do subscribe to my channel and I will tell you exactly as it is, as the law applies, without any sugarcoating and as neutrally and as unbiased as I possibly can. If you want my personal opinions, then I will share those only on Black Belt Secrets, linked in the description below. Please go ahead and subscribe there too, and I'm very grateful to all of you for subscribing. So I'm going to play you a clip, which is a stark warning from the CPS, warning of more prosecutions to come. But just first of all, apologies about the quality of the audio. It's not my fault. There was noise in the background when they filmed this, so it is a little bit difficult to hear, but do bear with me while I play this clip for you. Take a listen to this.
When violent thugs descended on the Holiday Inn Hotel in Manchester on the 31st of July, in scenes which sparked profound fear and alarm in our community, we were clear that justice would come for those responsible. Today, Paul Smith, aged 21, has been jailed for his part in the ugly events of that evening. While police attempted to protect the hotel, its staff and occupants from the violent mob, Smith threw bricks and other missiles at officers and police vans. Smith pleaded guilty at the first opportunity to violent disorder, and that was taken into account by the sentencing judge when he jailed him for 2 years and 10 months. I hope this sentence delivers a message to those who choose to take part in antisocial unrest or public disorder. Justice is coming. Our thanks go to the police for their bravery, dedication and swift investigation. The Crown Prosecution Service will continue to work with our partners across the criminal justice system to bring those spreading fear and violence in our communities to account.
And so there, a stark warning that they are continuing work to find all of those that were involved in the violent disorder and charge them and bring them to court. Now, the important thing that flagged up there was that these individuals named here were charged with violent disorder, but there have been a number of individuals now charged with rioting, which is something that I hinted in a previous video that we might see, because that is very much more severe, simply because it attracts a more severe prison sentence. For public order and violent disorder, under the Public Order Act of 1986, the offence of violent disorder attracts a prison sentence of 5 years or a fine or both on indictment, meaning in the Crown Court, or on a summary conviction, that just means in the Magistrates' Court, if it's less severe, not exceeding 6 months or a fine, or not exceeding the statutory maximum or both. Now, many of these we have been seen sent to the Crown Court because they've been seen as more serious. Many of those have been pleading guilty. No doubt they've been advised that they will get a third off their sentence if they plead guilty at the earliest opportunity. And now that we've seen some charged with riot, I understand that the first teenager, who obviously won't be named because we don't name those under 18, and save unless the judge says so, but the first teenager's been charged with riot, and a couple of individuals as well. The big difference here being that there's all sorts of other implications as to when it is named as a riot, but the principal one for the defendant in such a case is that on indictment, they can get 10 years or a fine or both. And so not only have we seen a teenager, but we've seen a number of adults now, or the first adult at least, charged with rioting. Now, this comes as the judge that I mentioned previously had indicated to prosecutors that they should be looking at more serious charges because they have more severe sentences. Because one thing that judges often see is charges lower than the offending behavior because it's more likely to secure either a guilty plea or a conviction at a trial. And the judge hinted there that more severe charges should be made because they have heavier sentences. Now, according to the National Police Chiefs Council, Well over 1,100 people have been arrested so far, and almost 700 charged following all of the unrest around the country. But all of that then leads, of course, to two questions. First of all, lots of people I've seen in comment threads ask the question, what about the Manchester airport incident? Well, there is an update. It's no more of an update than I've showed you previously, but the update as it is, as of yesterday, from the police says they've submitted a comprehensive file of evidence to the Crown Prosecution Service for advice as part of an investigation into the series of alleged criminal offences which saw 3 police officers injured at Manchester Airport. Again, some people say, why are they alleged criminal offences? That is simply because they are alleged criminal offences unless and until they are either pleading guilty or they are found guilty in court. Whatever you saw on the video, they are alleged offences until that happens. Greater Manchester Police Major Incident Team investigators, led by a highly experienced senior investigating officer, have been thoroughly investigating the incident. 4 men remain on bail. A separate and independent investigation into the officers' actions by the IOPC remains ongoing. So they've handed a file to the CPS for advice to consider, presumably to consider charges or what they want to do. That's typically what happens when a file is handed to the CPS. So it's either just for advice at this stage or it is an advice on charges or so on. We don't know. That is just the update that has been provided by Greater Manchester Police. The second question then, I've had lots of people ask me, even somebody asking me for formal advice on hypothetical scenarios, which we don't generally do. We don't generally advise on a hypothetical, what about if I went off and did this kind of thing. Generally, we don't do that, but generally our advice is limited to facts and what has happened. And if you're doing a contract or something like that, advising on the specifics of how the law applies to certain situations and to protect you in that way. We don't generally advise broadly on speech and what you can and can't say. But what I will say is that this has left lots of people wondering what they can say online. And so all I can give you by way of general guidance, with the firm understanding that this is not to be relied upon as legal advice, but general guidance is that while these incidents are either ongoing or the arguments are still ongoing, and while this whole situation is still very much in the public eye, I would be very careful about what you post online if there is the possibility that it could be construed as stirring up hatred, encouraging further violence, because just because the initial pockets of violence and disorder seem to have ceased doesn't mean that they might not pop up again. So if one of your messages were to spark an outburst of activity in a given area, certainly if you referred to a specific place in any of your messages, then obviously that might well come back to you, because if there is violent disorder that happens in a certain place and it is found that you had a message that encouraged or incited or stirred up the hatred that is then either encouraging, assisting in, or in any way part of the disorder, it may come back to you and you may find yourself being arrested, interviewed, charged, and so on. And you might remember this chap here who is captured in 3 video stills in this one still put together here. I'm not going to play it. You can play it yourself. This is from the Daily Mail. He was all over social media and allegedly even said to one of the security officers whether he wanted his signature or autograph because he was quote unquote famous now. He was in the media for looting the likes of Greggs and Shoe Zone and Lush. Also attacked a BMW carrying passengers, and I believe also damaged 9 other vehicles. And so he reportedly admitted to 3 charges of burglary and pleaded guilty to racially aggravated criminal damage of the BMW. And as a result of all of that, he was sent to prison for over 4 years. That's the second highest sentence in all of these sentences. The highest being someone was seen to have played a prominent role in these riots, throwing missiles at the police, an extensive and prominent involvement in these riots, and he was sent to prison for 6 years. However, now that we've seen that people are now being charged with rioting, They could be looking at up to 10 years imprisonment on indictment and, of course, potentially a fine as well. So as I say, this is far from over, and we are likely to see many more prison sentences and many harsher prison sentences coming up. That's my little prediction. And it has left a lot of people wondering and even emailing, asking for advice on what you can and can't say on social media. Now, what I would say is you can use some common sense. So I would avoid naming places, I would avoid naming people, and I would certainly avoid direct incitement or encouragement of any kind of activity whatsoever. Even if you think that it's justified, it is likely that you will be pulled up for that, questioned about it, maybe even charged and sent to prison. Remember the lady who was otherwise just a carer with a clean and otherwise unblemished, so I understand it, background, but she was given a 15-month prison sentence for one post, I understand it, on Facebook, albeit that was a very aggressive post. She shouldn't have posted it. She understands that she shouldn't have posted it, but the judge in the case said that that was so severe that only a custodial sentence would be appropriate, and she was sent to prison for 15 months. And so obviously that is a stark warning to anybody involved, but it does, I understand, leave everybody worrying about what they can post on social media. But what I can say as some assurance is that these sentences and these posts and everything else should not worry the vast majority, at least I certainly hope, the vast majority of you out there, because the vast majority of you out there would not post things like this, would not retweet or repost things like this, and make those sort of comments that incite such hatred or violent disorder and so on. So most of you are probably safe in what you post when you post your comments and your opinions and things like that. Posting your comments and your opinions is one thing, but obviously the context in which you do so is everything here. Because many of these posts and comments were at or around the time that these riots were going on, and thus they were intrinsically linked in the factual matrix and in the judge's findings when passing sentence. But once again, if you want my personal views, because this is a neutral assessment that I provide you on this channel, I've even had some nasty emails sent directly to me, not just comments under the video, but emails directly to me. They've gone out of their way to find my email address and send me a nasty email, all because despite me giving you a neutral, unbiased assessment of what's going on this channel, they somehow seem to take that to mean that I'm standing up for the establishment and downtreading everybody else and saw fit to send me a nasty email. I haven't done anything with it. I probably could do something with it. It probably would pass a threshold for malicious communications at the very least, if not worse. But at the end of the day, that sort of proves my point. Because if someone is going to send a really nasty message with the sole intent of upsetting somebody and causing needless anxiety, that does sort of speak for itself. But at the end of the day, everyone has an opinion, everyone can make comments. I am not going to be silenced in any sense. In fact, I have a case in the High Court against me at the moment. I am fighting and defending that. I think it's baseless, but I will report in full on that case when the time is right. But for the moment, I would urge you, just be careful about what you post, what you repost, what opinions you put out, because everything is taken in context. And so everything you write, think to yourself first, if you were going to have to justify what you've written to a jury or to a judge, what would they say? What do you think they would think about what you're about to post? And so if you think they would probably frown on what you're about to post, then don't post it. That might feel like a restriction of your freedom of expression, but sometimes in the right circumstances, it might be better that you simply hold on your thoughts. Now, it might seem that that is a really unfair curtailment of your right to the freedom of expression. And if you want to know what I really think about that, go over to Black Belt Secrets, linked below, and I'll tell you what I think. In fact, I already have done. There's a video out there already. I released it this morning. And so with that, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe here for a neutral approach, hopefully a refreshing change from mainstream media. Subscribe here to my channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.